Are y'all ready to get this started?
Let's go.
3, 2, 1.
Let's get it. Here we go.
Sit your ass down and get ready for the next episode of the Urban Green Room. The Urban Green Room. With your hosts, my girl a.a. and that dude d.lewis.
Hey everyone, it's your girl a.a.
What's up, world? It's your man d.lewis.
And welcome to another episode of the Urban Green Room podcast. Before we get into it, yes, we have guests and a very much needed topic for us to discuss tonight. But before we get into the introduction of who's joining us today, I have some statistics that I want to read off to you. So, 19% of adults experience mental health illness, which equates to about 45 million citizens in this country. 4.8% experience severe mental health issues. Fast forward to children. Death by suicide, 45,000. It's the second leading cause of death between teenagers between the ages of 10 and 17. And Black children, ages 5 to 12, the rate is nearly doubled the amount of their white counterparts. So let that sink in. Because why are we not discussing this more openly? And why is mental health in our community such a bad stigma? Like, we got to stop the negativity. So tonight, luckily, we have some experts joining our conversation, and we're going to get deep, share some personal experiences, and just talk about mental health, because at some point we're all affected and we need to start the conversation.
Good job, Ma. So tonight we have Raynisha and Devyn McDonald. They're out west in the California area. They are both hypnotherapists in training, but they are both also mental health specialists. Devyn is also a trauma and a wellness specialist. So we're bringing some expertise into the Urban Green Room tonight, because this is a very, very serious topic that is long overdue, and we need to start discussing this as a people. You know, our community is probably the most traumatized community in this country. That is certainly what I believe today. But we are taught that we can't display certain behaviors. I know I certainly was, and the people I know and talk to do the same thing. So welcome, guys. I really
welcome.
appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you. Welcome.
So I don't even know how to start the conversation.
So, so you guys are actually in the mental health professions. So what advice do you guys have on mental wellness and how to, let's say, maybe recognize you may need some help with your mental health, or someone close to you, kind of symptoms and things like that?
I think it's easiest for you to recognize it within yourself first. And if you're able to recognize it within yourself, then that makes it easier for you to recognize it in others. I can say my first real experience with mental health illness within myself was in college. Now, I had grown up in a poverty-stricken neighborhood. I was raised by a single mother. There was sexual trauma. So we had, lots of different things going on, but I had always had like this internal drive within myself to just succeed. So, I could overcome my circumstances. And when I got to college, I started to have some skin things going on, like my body started to break out. I was having headaches. I got to college for track. I lost my will to want to run. And that was something that had been a part of my life my entire life. So here I'm in college. I don't want to run track anymore. I don't really want to leave my room. I don't want to go to class. And this is what we do. We're here in college. What are you doing? You're about to lose your entire livelihood. And I just could not do it. And I remember it got to the point where I started having headaches and I was blacking out, or I could not be in a room that had any light in it. And my boyfriend, which is my husband now, made me go to the hospital, which that's something that needs to be addressed. We hate going to the hospital. We don't want to go to the hospital and get checked out. But a lot of times we're justified in that because the medical system, along with the entire United States, has always abused us in those places. And those are places where we feel vulnerable and we can't trust them with our health because they have done terrible things to us behind closed doors in the hospital. But anyway, he made me go. I went and the doctor basically said, if you don't get your mind together, if you don't figure out what's stressing you to this point, you're going to die. I was like, what? Like, I can't take no aspirin. It's going to get better. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, no, something is stressing you to the point to where your brain is just reacting the way it's reacting, and you're going to give yourself a brain aneurysm. Like, there's no medical reason why you should be blacking out. Like, you're in optimum shape, like you're healthy. I'm looking at all your numbers. Everything is fine. Like, whatever is going on within your psyche. And so I left that day, like, I didn't know what to do with that information. I was like, okay, where am I supposed to start? And so that was the day that I knew I had to figure it out. And there was nobody I could turn to. I couldn't turn to any of my friends. We talked about it, but they kind of looked at me like, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I started just really digging through my life, like getting to know myself, like, what's wrong? I'm sad. Why am I sad? And I had to answer all those questions that came up. I'm sad because I just feel sad. Okay, well, let's dig deeper. Like, what's going on around me? Like, how am I feeling? What am I thinking? What is my brain repeating all the time? Like, what am I listening to? And it was a really long journey, but it took probably a couple years, and I got to a place to where I got a little bit of emotional intelligence, and that helped me to be able to discover the root of my issues. I was suffering from depression and anxiety. And once I got those words, I took those words to my family. Okay, now we could get somewhere. Oh, well, such and such is sad all the time. And then talking to my family, I realized that both sides of my family suffer from anxiety and depression. One side of my family, we have a history of schizophrenia. Another side of my family, we have like OCD and severe anxiety. So those aren't words that my parents used, but you start to look and listen and feel, and you start to understand and identify what's happening and what's going on. But it started with myself.
For me, well, thank you guys for having us. For me, being born and raised in Inglewood, California, I had both parents, but also sports was my outlet. And so for me, I struggled with anxiety, but I didn't know I struggled with anxiety because I had sports. And so feeling a certain type of way in sports, you're like, oh, I just got to do this and do this. Oh, okay, I do feel better. And so I had that from the age of 6 to the age of 23. And so that one thing that we learned, that anxiety is built up energy that doesn't know where to go. And so for my sport, I allowed myself to exhaust myself. And so when I was done, I was like, oh, I feel better, thinking that it's just my sport that's just giving me that edge. And so once my sport was over in college, then it was confusing. It was like, what is going on with me? Why am I feeling a certain type of way? And it took me a while. It took me a while to the point that I knew that there's nothing I can do on my own. I need to go talk to someone. And I went to go talk to a counselor. And like, that was one of the best decisions I made for my life, because it helped me be able to talk things out, but also it helped me to get perspective from a different person of, hey, these are some of the things that you might be thinking, or have you thought of things differently of this way? And, you know, what are some of the things? And so I realized that fear also played a role in my anxiety, that I was afraid to do things because I was afraid of the failure aspect of things, which created anxiety of failing and disappointment. And so we worked on things, and he told me, he was like, you need to face your fears. You need to go towards them, because you are creating these outcomes that have never happened. And with creating these outcomes, you are creating even more anxiety for yourself of stuff that hasn't happened, but your body is responding as if it's happening right now. And so I took his words and said, you know what? I don't want to live a life this way. I don't want to live a life of fear, of being fearful of doing things and creating this bubble or this world that doesn't exist. And so I was afraid of heights. And so I said, well, there's one way that you can take care of that. I went skydiving. And it was probably
you just went all the way in, huh?
Gratifying things I've done in my life, because I was fearful of this. I did it. And the fear that I had of it was nothing like the accomplishment of it. And so I start to realize that when I am afraid of something in fear, we create this world or this emotion that this is what it's going to be. And then you do that fear head on, and you realize it was nothing like that you created something that was way bigger than it needed to be bigger. And so I was afraid of going back to school. And so I was like, you know what? If I'm afraid of it, I need to go towards it. And so I did. And so I went and got my master's in counseling, and started to realize in myself of there's things that you're creating in yourself that happened as a child that you're taking in as an adult, that you have to deal with it. And I think a lot of times, like you said, a lot of times we don't want to deal with those questions that are happening on the inside. We're scared to answer those questions. And so you have to get to the point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired when it comes to your mental and emotional health. Because in our community, we don't like to invest in that, right? In our community, we like to say, oh, it'll get better. Or especially, we've all heard this, you don't go out and talk about what goes on in this household.
Secrets.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Secrets.
And we've all heard that as kids of, you don't go out there and talk about what goes on in this household. What stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house.
Would get my ass whooped if they found out I did.
Right.
And our secrets are literally killing us.
Yes. Because we want to sweep things underneath the rug in the house. And then all of a sudden there's a mountain in our house, but no one wants to deal with that mountain in that house. And so then you get out of the house and you start to realize, like, all of these things that are going on that you wasn't prepared. You didn't have the tools to be able to help yourself. And so now you're trying to figure things out in your 20s of, well, what's going on and things, and you don't have these tools to be able to help you. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to give people tools to be able to help themselves through life.
Yeah, that's shit.
Thank you.
That's a mouthful right there from both of you. Like, if y'all was rattling off shit, and I was identifying with so much of it because I've been through it myself. So I know that I'm not an anomaly, and we are not anomalies either. So I know that there's so many of us who deal with these issues. And like you say, we go through these things that happen when we're kids and we're young. And then we're thrown out into the world, basically, right? So, and we're left to figure out how to deal with those emotions that we were told to suppress our
Yes.
entire lives. Whether, we can talk on a mental health tip, or, just being like compassionate, things like that. Certain things, especially, speaking as a man, when you're a boy coming up, there are things that you are told, what I mean? And one of them is, you don't show weakness even mentally, right? So we're taught we have to just push through something. You push through it, it'll be all right. So we get to an age to where, that don't work no more, because we're starting to mature a little bit more, right? So now, say we in our mid-20s, and we're like, what the hell is going on with me? Like, why am I feeling this way? And your first reaction is, don't say anything. I can't talk to anybody about this, because that's going to show weakness. I mean,
Or they
you go
gonna think
back
I'm
to
weird.
your training.
Yes.
Right.
Or that's white people shit.
That
Or-
one, you want to know how many times I've heard that one? Like that. Yeah. No, see, we're talking and we're saying we've heard these things, right? But I've said these things. You know what I mean? So I've said to other people and to myself, this is white people shit.
I'm not
going to talk to nobody, right? Fuck you talking about? No, we don't do that. Where we from, we deal with it. It's life.
Yes.
You know how many times I heard that growing up? It's life. Get used to it.
And something that like doesn't get addressed is like, when you deal with trauma, creates mental illness. The brain can only take what it can take. And if you get pound after pound, I mean, some of us are starting off out the gate. We born and we getting trauma. We 5 and we getting trauma. We're literally getting pounded every single day. And the brain can only take what it can take. And so you're 15, you have a mental breakdown. And it's just like, you're not old enough. What do you mean? I've had 15 years of trauma. Like, I might not have had as much as you, but I've had more trauma than most adults. You have people who are bombarded with trauma every day, all day, and that creates something. And then you get to be 20 and you're trying to undo a lifetime of trauma. Sometimes it leaves effects that cannot be undone. All you can do is learn how to cope with it.
Right.
For a fact, like, I have done an immense amount of work in my mental and my spiritual and my emotional, and I still suffer from anxiety, and it comes out of nowhere. Sometimes there is no buildup. It just happens. And it's like, why? Like, I'm happy. Why do I feel like this? Or I get hit with a bout of depression. Why? I'm happy. Like, everything is good. I can analyze my life and not see where this should be happening right now. And it's just like, there are things that happen physically that there is no undoing. Like, we just have to learn how to live with it, because we've lived a life of trauma. And who else is more traumatized than the Black man and the Black woman in America?
And that is so true, because even when we think about what you said, it starts at an early age. Some of us come out of the gate being traumatized. And that's one of those things where I think in our community, like, that's where we start out on a negative. Like, not only is there an absence of generational wealth, but that trauma is inherited. Like, we know if you live in certain areas, if you're surrounded by certain behaviors, instantly that's something that becomes embedded in you. And I think recognizing that, for me, was the hardest part, because me not realizing that I was suffering from depression, it didn't happen until I had an accident. I hit a kid, and I, in my mind, thought I killed him. So what happened, because I jokingly say that I'm emotionally constipated, because my whole life I'm surrounded by strong Black women who never cry. And to cry was a sign of weakness. And as the oldest grandchild, it was not acceptable. I had to set the example for everyone else to follow. So my whole life, I went through not dealing with emotions. And here I am almost 50 and I can't empathize and I can't show emotion. And it's the weirdest thing because D is very emotional. So I've had to learn to recognize, like, that's okay. That's okay to touch. It's okay to love. It's okay to cry. So during that accident, a flood of emotion came over me and I cried for days and I couldn't stop and I couldn't drive. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to look at myself. I said I needed help. Like, it was 3 days. And normally for me, I would tell myself, suck it up, shake it off. Like, you're not bleeding, nothing's broke, and go back and conquer the world. So I would. Well, after 3 days, I could not get up that courage and to put on that face and keep going. And I said to D, like, something's wrong with me. Like, you may not know that I'm crying all the time, but I'm crying all the time. I think I need help. And the first thing that he did, he was like, well, let's just go to the doctor because maybe something happened. You know, you injured yourself and internally, like you damaged something. I said, no, something's wrong with me mentally because I never cry. And here I can't stop. And I feel stuff and I don't know how to explain it. So I laugh now because I realized that was like emotion. Like, it was okay to feel that way. It was okay to be sad. It was okay to have a little bit of anxiety because you just went through a traumatizing situation. But for me, I had to own that because it was so out of character. But also I had to claim what I had suppressed. And that was part of my therapy. So I went from talking to someone twice a week to once a week to once a month, or once every 2 weeks to once a month. And I still have that conversation. Like, I've moved on to be able to understand other parts of myself that needed healing mentally, which for me is huge. And when I share that with other individuals, I get exactly what you said. That's white people shit. Like, we don't do that. You go, what? That sounds expensive. And I go, like, no more expensive than the pair of shoes I bought or the purse I bought. Like, my mental health is something I have to put on every day. Just like my outer appearance needs to be okay, up here needs to be okay. Like, I need to be able to function internally so I can show up for everybody, you know, in the physical. And that's the part where I wish more people could own that. Like, I agree. You have to recognize it with yourself, but you got to claim that, because once you see it, you can't ignore it. Like, we can lie to everybody else, like, you know, put on a happy face and say, I'm fine today. But you're lying to yourself when you notice that something is wrong mentally with you, or you can't explain, like, whatever internally is going on with you. It's okay to say, I need help. It's okay to say I need to talk to somebody, and not my mama, not my grandmother who gonna tell me go get some baking soda because baking soda cures everything.
Right.
But
or
talk to talk to somebody who's not going to be judgmental and maybe can give you a different perspective of what's going on.
There are several things. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna kind of piggyback on her thought because I was thinking about myself. And my own experience, a lot of times we just don't know. You know what I mean? So we go through a lot of things that are traumatic when we're children. I mean, we're children and we're going through some of these things. You know, you go into some neighborhoods and you know, it's like growing up in the war zone for some of these kids, right? We're dealing with things in our neighborhoods that we train men. We program men and women to do this job, to go, you know, out and into battle, right? So we program and train them. Our kids don't have that type of training like that, right? And on top of that, these adults still suffer issues, right? They still suffer greatly, although they had all this training and programming. but we accept it as being normal. This is just life growing up over here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we become just so numb, you know, so we don't even know we're traumatized a lot of the time. But our children don't know that this is actually trauma that's happening to them every single day. You know, unless it's something physical, we don't identify it that way. You know, so I'm dealing with things as a young teenager, you know, that I don't know how to handle. So this follows me throughout the rest of my life, right? And I've never dealt with it. So, you know, I had a very traumatic experience at 17. Didn't know how to handle it. You got to, of course, time and then God to help and all these other things that are supposed to heal me. And I waited on those things and they never came. And so I resorted back to, it's life. You just got to deal with it. You push through it, straighten your shit up, you know, rub some dirt on it. Nigga, let's go. But you can only do that for so long, right? So now everything eventually is going to come to a head, right? So now I have that one big traumatic event that happened. And now I got all these other little ones piled on top of it because life is still life, right? Mm-hmm. It's still happening. So now I'm a 40-something-year-old man, right? And I finally just got beat down so much in life that I had to accept that I needed help. I cannot do this no more. You want to know why? Because I don't want to, right? So when you get to a point where you really don't want to live anymore, it's very scary. You know, that's a very scary place to be. To wake yourself up and realize that, you know what, I really don't want to be here no more. I don't want to do this anymore. And people on the outside are looking like, dude, your life is great. It's perfect. Y'all got all this stuff and you got a beautiful family and this and that. It's not about things you accumulate collectively or even the people that's around you a lot of times. Some things just are so internally embedded that it doesn't matter what anybody else sees outside. It's about how you're feeling, about yourself, and about the way you perceive your life to be. You know, so whatever those issues are that are embedded deep within us have to come out. We have to get them out and recognize them before we, you know, unfortunately become more of a statistic with taking our lives. Because believe it or not, that's not just white people shit. Black people do that shit too.
It's on the rise.
Lot, actually, a lot. Yes. But, you know, it just doesn't get the notoriety, I guess, or I should say the press that, you know, some other things we get noticed for, you know what I mean?
And we don't talk about it because that's white people shit. And what was wrong with them? And why would they do that? And that's just like a hush hush. We just don't talk about it.
And then another thing in our culture, it's the big thing of, well, just pray on it. Just pray on it and it'll get better. And listen, people need to realize that God created people to help you with your mental state. He created people that way. And so if he created people for those things, there's a reason why he created people for those. There's a reason why he created doctors and all of these people is because he knows that these people are here to help. But we like to, you know, a lot of things with the African American culture, a lot of it is generational trauma that just continuously gets passed on. And someone has to be able to step up and say, this stops here with me. Because I know that my parents have dealt with stuff because of the times that they grew up. I know my grandparents dealt with stuff in the times they grew up, but they wasn't able to talk to people. It was one of those things, hey, it's life. You just move on, baby. You just keep your head down. You just keep grinding and it will get better. And so those things gets instilled in us because it's one of those things. Well, it's not a bruise. You can't see it. You seem fine. So you should be fine. Keep it going. Never saying like, well, I may be good on the outside, but I am fucked up on the inside. And who do I talk to? Who do I go to about the issues that's going on the inside of me that I can actually talk to? And when we don't have those people, then that's when the hopelessness starts to creep in, because now you're starting to feel that, well, I can't talk to this person because they're going to judge me and they're going to make me, I'm going to make them feel a certain type of way. So the hopelessness comes in. And when that hopelessness comes in, that's when the suicidal thoughts starts to come in. And we've all been there. I've had them. I had them when I had an identity crisis of who am I? Because I was known for sports. And once sports was done for me, I didn't know who I was. And walking around this world of not knowing who you are and where you belong, it starts to creep in. Well, maybe you don't belong here because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, no one's going to worry about you. Like no one cares about you. And all these negative thoughts that we do to ourselves, people don't realize we negative talk ourselves more than people talk negatively to us. So when we start to negatively talk to ourselves, we start to create this negative environment and these negative feelings that don't go away.
You become an enemy of yourself.
You become an enemy of yourself.
Something that everybody has said is we as Black people have cultural beliefs and values, and they have not evolved nor have they changed. If we go all the way back to when we first arrived here as slaves, which that's a completely different conversation because some of us did, others of us were already here. Anyway, when you go back to that time where you have a different race or breed of people who are now inflicting oppression on us so that they can have their collective thing, we have bigger things to worry about than how you feel inside. So yes, chuck that shit up, because we got to survive. Like we are literally in fight or flight. Like everything we do can kill us. Okay, we got out of that. Now we live in the segregation, Jim Crow. They're literally hanging Negroes from trees just for existing. We are still in the fight or flight. You know, we still don't have time to worry about how you feel. Like we're trying to stay alive for so long. Our existence has been stay alive, stay alive. It doesn't matter. Stay alive. Yes, there are atrocities happening within our communities. We have rapists and pedophiles and murderers, and we're doing drugs, and drugs is also a symptom of a deeper problem. So you have all these things going on, and here we are past that, and we are still telling ourselves that we just need to survive and get past it. No, times have changed. Things are different. We have to evolve. We have to become better. We have to recognize things. Like somebody has to say something. Like everybody stop. We're not just surviving anymore. Like we have to change the way we live, because we've been told, you know, as slaves, oh, you don't want that baby's stupid. He ain't good for work. That's a survival. That's a coping mechanism. I don't want them to sell my kid. So, you know, I down talk them. But now your mama down talk you all the time, and she don't know why. She's just doing what her mama did and what that mama did and what that mama did.
Generational trauma.
Or, you know, we allow molestation and rape to happen in our households. And it's like, why? Because we just need a man to be there to help us get these bills paid. Why? Because who else gonna help us do it? You have opportunities now. Like there are programs, you got school, you got a lot of things that can help you. You don't have to live like that no more. You know, we value clothes and shoes and all that stuff above all. Like we willing to spend our last dollar to look good. Why? Because I want the person across from me to think that I'm doing well. Why does that matter?
Yes.
You know, we have not changed upstairs. And until we change, until we get to a point to where we accept ourselves, like on an individual scale, I accept you fully and completely. Then we change our behavior. I accept my brother or my sister fully and completely. They ain't got to prove nothing to me. down on
It's
you
so
and make you feel
liberating.
like shit.
It is
Like what?
so liberating when you actually reach that point.
Yes.
I mean, this is the best that I've ever felt in my entire adulthood, right? It took me this far to get here. You know, it's people don't understand. I don't have to impress anybody. You know,
Right.
the most important person it's got to be me. I have to make sure that I'm happy, right? So, you know, another thing generationally, you know, we're told that we have these certain roles, you know, that we have to adhere to, right? Man, work. That's it. You take care of the family. That's your job. You do that. Make sure your kids graduate, keep them out of prison, and keep yourself alive, right? That's what we have to do as men. But lost in there is you have to take time for you. What are you doing for yourself? Right? You know, the same with women, right? We all need to be doing something for ourselves, right? So if we're in a position to where we can't, you know, do what we love to do for a living, we need to find a way to do something else to make time to do that. Whatever that thing is that makes you happy, do that. And if you can turn it into a revenue stream, perfect. I mean, that is kind of like the ideal situation because now you're happy. You know who you are, what you want to do. You know, it sucks. I'm going to tell you right now, being, 43 years old and trying to figure out who the fuck you are. Like, that's a bad place to be. You know what I mean? You don't want to be there. You know, you would think after being on this earth for 40 years, you would have some clue of who you are. You know what I mean? So it's
baby at 40.
On one end, you get the embarrassment, right? Like, I don't know who the fuck I am, man. What am I doing? And then it's like, oh shit, you know what? This shit is getting crazy. I need to figure something out real quick. And then you go talk to somebody that don't have skin in the game. And that's where you guys come in as therapists, right? You don't have skin in my game. Like, you're not my wife. She's got skin in the game. You know, you're not my best friend. You're not my mom. All those people close to us have skin in the game. And unfortunately, as well-intentioned as it may be, you can get a lot of bad advice. You know what I mean? Or you get the same narrative that you've been telling yourself. That's not true.
Because
you know
people can only tell you how to get what they got.
They can only give you what they.
So going to a professional, to try to get some perspective on your life and what's really going on, it is a wonderful thing. I'm going to say that. It's just a wonderful thing because you get a different perspective than the story you've been telling yourself or that the story that other people project on you. Right? Because we get a lot of shit projected on us. We're supposed to be this. We're supposed to be that. You got to go here. You got to go. Why? Why do I have to do these things? Right? I mean, that's how we live our lives. And we're taught that from infancy. You have to do this. You have to go to college. You have to be a doctor. You got to be a lawyer. You can't go over there. Like all of our lives. We have generations of bullshit projected on us, right? So we box ourselves in.
Yes.
So we have to, so now we have to do these things. And, we don't have to do any of that once we're comfortable being ourselves. Like when you can be yourself and be happy with yourself, that is probably the most beautiful place as a person to be in my mind. Like I say, it's very liberating. And for the first time in my life, I could say I'm truly happy. I've had moments of joy. I've had, periods and occasions of joy and happiness, I think, but not sustained. Like true inner peace. I've never had that. And I'm starting to experience that right now. And it's a lot, it has a lot to do with me being able to accept that I needed help. And sometimes that help goes beyond just talking. Sometimes you have to get some medication to be able to assist with that process.
Yep.
So let's get
like
into that a little bit, if you guys are okay with that. So the medicinal piece. Have you guys ever recommended on top of therapy medication for some of your patients, or do you kind of encourage them to see their physician first? How does that process work? If you don't know me and I just make an appointment with you and I came in, and through talking, maybe a couple, 2-3 sessions, you said, you know what, D, I think you need some more help. How does that process work for those who don't know?
Well, for that process, we never tell people like this is what you need to take. We most definitely through the talking, through the conversation, we will be able to notice that, all right, there's some additional supports that this person may need. And then that's when we advise our clients, this would be a great time for you to go talk to your doctor about some of the things you're dealing with, because they can support you from a medicine standpoint, if that's something if you need. Because we really feel that our jobs isn't to tell you like what medication to take. That's not our lane. I'm a big person of always staying in your lane, because it's your lane and no one can do what you do in your lane. And so when it comes to people who need more than just what we're able to provide, we let them know that these are the places that you can go and be able to talk to your doctors. And if you need a referral from us, we most definitely will give you that referral for your doctor, so your doctor can understand some of the things that we've talked about. And so the doctor can also have kind of an idea of a foundation of, what's been going on.
And that's also, medication is a twofold subject. I definitely believe that sometimes medication is not necessary in every single case. Mm-hmm. Every person is different and should never be looked down upon. If that's what you have to use in order to help yourself, then that's what you need to use in order to help yourself. Every person in every case is different. There are different systems at work and there are different things going on. Some things are more mental as far as chemicals, balances, stuff that's going on within your body. Some things are trauma induced where you still have chemicals and what that are happening and interacting, but they can be dealt with using different alternatives. I know people who suffer from anxiety, and there are people who are taking medications to help their anxiety. There are some people who take weed to help them. There are some people who do teas and exercise. There are some people, like, everybody is different. Mm-hmm. And the most important thing is to do what is best for you and to try things in steps. I personally feel like medication should be like your last thing that you do, because just honestly, there are reactions that happens with that too. So I think you need to progress. Like, if your first step was counseling and that didn't work, and your second step was, okay, let me add on things that I like with counseling and that didn't work. Okay, let me talk to a doctor, do things that I like and counseling, and all those things don't work. Okay, my doctor says I need medication. Okay, let me do medication. So doing what's best for you is super important. And if medication is what's best for you, please take your medication and don't stop because you feel good, because that's the point of the medication. keep on taking it so you can keep
Right.
feeling good, so you don't get stuck
Right.
in that roller
No, it's
coaster.
funny. I mean, I'm laughing. I'm not laughing because I think it's funny if people do that. I've done that. That's why I'm laughing. Right? Like, shit, I'm straight. I'm good, right? You know,
You're good because the medication.
But that's
You
what we
gotta stay
do.
on it.
That's what we do. Because first off, we don't want to take the shit to begin with. You know, a lot of times, and because it's got the stigma. You know, so now you hiding this shit like I can't somebody come over, all the pills up. You know, like
right. Or the stigma you get from other people is you act a certain way and they be like, you take your medication, and you like, I can just be upset. Like I just can't be mad about what just happened in life. It's because I ain't take my meds.
That's why I'm acting like this.
Right.
I'm acting like this because you an asshole.
So let's talk about that because so that was me. So I had on a previous podcast told our viewers and listeners that it was year 5 of marriage where I decided I wasn't going to try to change D anymore. Like he was who he was and I had to accept him fully. In doing so, I noticed that like he wasn't quite right. And coming from wait a minute, no, listen. No, because
something wrong with that nigga.
No.
What did I get into? Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm hearing.
Because listen, it was year 5
Time out.
that I think
is that
we
what y'all
realized
heard?
I'm dead.
No.
Parts of the story.
No, he would do these. He would have really high highs and really bad lows. Mm-hmm. And from somebody who's emotionally constipated, I was like, "Whoa,
that did not mix.
Like
it didn't mix well at all.
This is a lot to take. Like I'm trying to be there, but I can't deal with my own emotions. So dealing with his. So when it came to noticing these trends that were happening with him, my delivery was not always the best.
It was horrible.
It was horrible.
Let's call it what it is. It was horrible.
And I would be like, I think you crazy. Like something ain't right. Like, and it would come out of nowhere. We'd be at the dinner table, the kids would be going, and I go, you know what? Yesterday you was crazy. And I had to catch myself because I was like, that wasn't very loving. It was no cool, no nothing, no empathy, no, hey babe, want to talk about what happened yesterday? I didn't even go there. I was just like, I think you're crazy. And I think that delayed and derailed him getting the assistance that he needed. Mm-hmm. So when we realize or recognize something like this is happening to our loved ones, can you speak about the delivery? Because mine was horrible. And I think it set us back a couple years.
And then
I softened. And then I was I approached differently. I did some homework. I started reading up on what I was speculating and how to have these conversations with him. Like we could talk about everything else, but the minute I would say, you crazy, like the minute that came out, he shut down and again added to that negative stigma that comes with mental illness. My delivery was off. So how do we avoid having those type of setbacks with our loved ones? Because in hindsight, 21 years, in it, I'm just like, girl, you was a hot mess. I'm so happy the first 10 years of marriage, we got through it because I was a little harsh. Like I was horrible. I was just like, you needed to learn some lessons. And one of them was delivery. Just because I noticed it didn't mean he was going to accept the way I was projecting that on him. Nobody wants to be called crazy. Like, so how do we deal with that? And that was one thing that dropped from my vocabulary instantly was like, okay, there's no more talk of, being crazy. He's not. There's an issue that I don't understand and we need to figure out how to address it.
Well, I think it lets you know how words have power and how when we speak certain words, it goes back to when we negative talk ourselves all the time. And then when someone close to us has those negative talks to us, now there's not that positive. So it's easier for me just to shut down, because then who can I talk to? Because the person closest to me thinks I'm crazy and keeps saying I'm crazy. And I'm like, I'm not crazy, because in my mind, crazy looks like this and doing this. And I am nowhere doing these things, but am I? What's wrong with me? And so what it does is, the best way is to deal with your spouse or your loved one or your friend with the same compassion that you would want to have for yourself.
I used to say early on, I said, truth without love/compassion is violence. To tell somebody the truth, but to like really stick it to them, the truth can cut you. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I know that, but like, do you have to say it like so harshly? As Black people, you know, we call it, I'm a straight shooter. I'm not fake. I'm just gonna give it to you, you know, straight. And it's like,
I'm a real one.
Yeah. But where is the...
Don't make me real sad. That's what you're about to do right now.
But where's the love? Like, where's the love?
Right.
Where's the love?
Absolutely.
Do you want me dealing with you like that? Like, you want me, my husband is a Virgo.
Oh my God.
Many times he just, pew, and I'm like, well, let me tell you what.
Go ahead.
I'm like, well, let me tell you what I heard. And that's something we do when we do our marriage counseling. It's not about what you said. It's about what that person heard.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what you're trying to communicate is not what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So when I try to talk to him and I have to deliver some harsh news to him, I always stop and I mull it over in my head. It's like I try to take it to him as if I was taking it to one of my kids, because as a mom, I'm not going to ever injure my children with my words. That's one thing. I've been injured enough by the words of my parents and grandparents. I'm not going to do that to my kids. So when dealing with him, I try to say, well, how would I present this to my child so that I don't injure who they are and they get what I'm trying to communicate? And if I'm talking to him and I can see he getting mad, I'll be like, well, what I'm trying to say shouldn't make you mad. So hold on, let me think about it. Or what I'm trying to say should not hurt your feelings. So give me a second so that I can figure out what it is and how to deliver it to you.
You listening?
Because I care.
I've gotten so much better.
That's good.
And I think it's stages of communicating, right? Because before we were married, we were individuals, right? We grew up in different homes. We grew up in different environments.
And we heard people communicate different.
Right. And so, you know.
My daddy might be like, come here, yo, stanky bitch. And then you're like, oh.
You're like, no, he actually loves you. That's the way he communicates.
Yeah, that's an endearment. That's a term of endearment in my house. And you're like, what the fuck?
Right. And so what you're pretty much saying is year 5 to the year 21 now, you guys have grown in your way that you communicate to each other.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's about how am I communicating to you? Because you know that when I'm communicating to you and you starting to, the energy starts to change, you like, hold on. You need to be mature enough to say, hold on, obviously what I'm saying is not coming across the way it needs to come across.
And as the person hearing the effed up words, you got to be mature enough to say, what you saying? What you saying is hurting my feelings.
Like, hold on.
Saying,
you know,
it's hurting me. I don't like it. But you got to be able to say you hurt, because if you don't let them know what you say hurt me and you just go to anger, then the communication will never happen. But both people
link it out.
Both people gotta be mature. It's maturity too. You gotta be mature.
Right. Well, that's that emotional intelligence as you get older. No one wants to hurt
your spouse. Go ahead.
Oh, exactly. No, I was just saying that's to her point. That's the emotional intelligence that, you know, hopefully we're all developing as we continue to get older and more mature. Like for us, I had to, like, after saying something like, okay, what did you hear?
Because I have selective hearing.
Right. So that's just something I've learned, over the years and dealing with her. I'm like, I did not say that.
Girl,
yes, it did.
One day I made corned beef and cabbage, and I love corned beef and cabbage. And I presented it to the family, and they all looked at me like I made dog food. And I was like, eat up, everybody. And they were like, we don't like corned beef and cabbage. What I heard was, you're a horrible cook for feeding this to us. And he pulled me aside and he knew, he knows his wife. He said, what did we just say? They were like, you cook this like once a year for everybody. And we all, every year, are like 15 years. We're like, we don't like this. We don't. Why do you cook so much? This is a you
Why
thing.
you keep making this?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm happy. And I cooked cornbread with it too, and made sure it was
mama in there
fresh
making
hot
that
sauce on the table.
Yo, we sneak out. We sneak out and go get something else to eat and shit.
Knew it.
That's what we did.
I didn't know they were throwing it in the garbage. I was like, who don't like corned beef and cabbage? My family. So left of hearing, he knew his wife was like, we're not. Listen, this is not what we said. This is not one of our favorite dishes. Like, don't cook it again for us. You want to make some for yourself? That's fine. Don't make a big pot of it. There'll be no leftovers. Yeah, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, she get ready to go on strike and shit.
Yeah,
I ain't doing nothing else in the house no more.
Yeah, I was like, y'all like my cooking? I won't cook for y'all ever again. I was ready. Because that's what I heard.
He was like, I'll eat it, mama. Don't worry about it.
But why was that your reaction? That was your reaction because your feelings were hurt. And instead of being like, that hurt my feelings, you just like, fuck y'all.
I heard you're a horrible cook. I was like,
exactly.
Y'all gets no more.
So immediately I'm on my knees. I'm like, okay, I got to save us. I'm going to save us, boys. Boys, I'm going to save us. I'm going to take this one for y'all. You know I love you.
Remember this when y'all get older.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things because, and I think that is the thing in our culture is we wasn't taught the tools as kids of when someone hurts you, how to express you being hurt. The thing that we were able to express was anger. So then it's like, why are you always upset? And then sometimes you don't even know why you upset. Like, I don't know, but what you said, I'm upset. And it's just like, when you get older, you start to realize what you said hurt me. And because it hurt me, I need to now be able to be mature enough to say, hey, what you said hurt me. And it made me feel a certain type of way.
That's the one emotion that is acceptable in the Black community is hurt.
Yes.
I mean, anger, because anger translates to aggression. Mm-hmm. And you could be aggressive and you could sock a nigga in the face, but you can't be vulnerable and let somebody know you got in and you hurt me. Because
because now I'm weak. And now for me mentally, I'm thinking, well, now you know how to hurt me. Now you know how to get inside me. And so
you're going to use it all the time.
Right. And so we show those things to put up a defense. And so, I was like that. That was the one thing. Like someone can scare me and I'll be pissed. Like, not just to be able to let them know, like, hey man, you scared the shit out of me. But it's more so like, nigga, you trying to roll up on me? And it's just like, is he about to punch the dude? Like, no, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Like, but those things are taught. And so what we have to do is be able to be more mature in our emotions and understand. And that's what you're talking about is investing in self. Investing in yourself, love yourself, be kind to yourself. Because if you don't invest in yourself, you don't love yourself, you're not kind to yourself, how can you expect others to do that?
And that is a great segue right there. Like, I'm going to stop because I truly want to have both of you back on so that we can continue the conversation on mental health, mental awareness. There's so much more to this topic and we're just touching the surface. We barely
scratched the surface.
Yeah.
The surface.
We really did.
So like It has been a
love
pleasure.
to have y'all back.
I am so happy that we came across each other and you were willing to join us for this conversation. So yes, I think that means there's a part 2 coming.
Yeah, this was mad dope.
Okay.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yes.
We said a lot.
Yes.
In an hour that I think we need to slow down a little bit and unpack some of it.
Yes.
Because we put a lot into this hour. If somebody's actually listening or watching this, it's a lot of gems that was dropped.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to unpack some of that and touch on some more things that we as a community deal with you two. I thought it was mad dope. So thank you so much.
Just let us know when, and we will
it.
definitely make it happen. But
the McDonald.
No doubt.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Devyn.
Yes, thank you. This is awesome.
Raynisha.
Thanks for coming, guys.
We'll
have all their information on our website, folks. theurbangreenroom.net. If you guys want to reach out, you got any questions about, how you should deal with certain issues or how to diagnose yourself, what steps you should take if you're dealing or trying to deal with some emotions that you don't know what's going on. So just reach out, get help, folks. It's a serious topic and it's for real, and it can be deadly, and we don't want anything to happen to our folks out there. We need to start taking care of ourselves, and that means mentally too. So feel free to reach out to them, reach out to the Green Room. We're always willing to have a conversation about whatever you guys want to. So we're going to end it right here, y'all. We out.
Thank you for tuning into the Urban Green Room podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. Hit us up at urbangreenroom.net or on our Facebook or IG page.
I always follow them.
Tell us what you think about today's conversation. If there's a topic you want to discuss, let us know. And by all means, tell a friend. The Urban Green Room podcast, giving you something to talk about. Until next time, we out.